So something you just said that I think is so powerful, and I want everybody that's listening, right? If you're a guy and you're like, oh, this is woman talk, like, please don't do that, because I think for men to understand this about women, and for also women to, like you said in the beginning, honor and understand men better, we will just have, it is the best gift you could ever give either partner in a relationship. And so when you talk about hormones, for me, a common theme where, like, I hate my hormones, I hate the issues I have, this sucks so bad, nobody can help me, nobody can figure it out, I feel crazy, once a month I feel depressed, I feel anxious, I feel lazy, and I just hate every aspect of it. And I got told my whole life, oh, that's just normal, it's just PMS, that's what happens, and you can't do anything about it. And I love that you said
propaganda.
Yeah, propaganda.
For sure.
Toxic mythology that perpetuates oppressive culture.
Yeah.
Because let's just do a little compare and contrast.
Yep.
Emilio, do you walk around saying that you hate your hormones?
No, not at all. No.
Do you feel a victim to your testosterone levels?
No.
Indeed, you do not. And why is that? What is the salient difference? Your conditioning. From a young age, you have been taught to view your body as a tool to master your life, whereas women are taught to view their bodies as problematic projects to work on and work around.
Yes.
100%.
And that is fundamentally such a root cause of sort of like how this unfurls for people. If you were told a different story, you'd feel more like Emilio.
Yeah. I 100% would.
I'm here to tell the story, just so we're clear.
I mean, I can't imagine. We were talking about this offline, but like seriously, like I tell this to Rachel all the time, but like we're digging really deep into it and seeing the fundamental kind of really the epidemic that it is right now. But we said this right before we got online, and it's like I am completely and utterly amazed the way that Rachel functions, because she is a badass boss babe and just beautiful inside and out. But like, given the infradian system that I know we'll talk about on the show, or the rhythm, it's like the whole female cycle. I can't imagine, we joke around when I'm sick, like I haven't gotten sick in a long time because we take care of our bodies and our minds and everything. But there's like a joke with men, right? When men get sick, we're like babies. And it's like so true. Like I'm a baby when I'm sick. And it's like...
Or we just don't feel good.
Not feeling well. And I'm like, I'll shut everything down. Like I'm going to just watch a movie and sit on the couch. No. I mean, women and Rachel especially, because she's starting to work on her hormones even more so because she gets really bad pains and that's getting a lot better. But to see her ebb and flow and try her best. And of course, before meeting you and reading your books and everything, it was that forcing and really interrupting this natural thing. Yeah. And so I just wanted to like honor and respect the feminine just on the show right now. So much more respect, much more just gratitude. And you're right. Like it's not just this deep conversation that we're having right now, but it's like really changing the whole paradigm, having a whole paradigm shift about this, that it really needs to stop.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the way that we talk about it is just so antiquated. It's so preposterous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's laughable when we like break down the mythology around women's hormones. But I did want to speak to one thing that you guys had brought up a little earlier, and then I'll dive back into the myths for those who are curious. But, I do think that what's so helpful for men understanding hormones, and for those of you who are listening, is that, I want you to understand your hormones too. Most men are walking around, they might not feel victimized by their hormones, but they don't understand their testosterone patterns and how to leverage them for optimal performance, right? And I think that if we can have that mutual understanding, A, that's a really good thing for relationships. And B, many men really wish that they could do something when they're in partnership with their beloved. If they're in a heterosexual relationship, they want to do something to help their female partner. They feel powerless, and they feel like they feel that lack of information is in between the intimacy of the relationship. When I have taught mixed gender audiences, the who rushes up to buy my books first are all the dudes, because they're like, you have the formula in here, like the winning formula. Like, if I do this at this time, X will happen with my relationship, right? Because you can break it down, just like I can tell you, Emilio, when the optimal time during the day is for you to have sex, right? There's also, I can tell you that of how to interact with that now with your female partner, right? Time of day for you and phase of her cycle, right? How to change foreplay.
It's huge.
Yeah.
How to change your foreplay approach so that you're optimizing her pleasure, because obviously you care about that, etc. Right? Now, and which dates to go, like, for example, women hate it when guys are like, ooh, let's go out with our friends, and they're in their luteal phase, right? This is not an ideal time. They're not biologically or hormonally wired to socialize at this time. If you catch them, though, in their ovulatory phase, when their social and verbal centers of their brain are being hyperstimulated with estrogen, and you're like, babe, I booked us a table for 4. I'm bringing, Jill and Bob. We're going to go hang out. She's like, God, you are like the best boyfriend. I want to go out. How did you know? Right? This level of synchronizing pleasure is not mysterious or accidental, or you can dial it in to a pattern that you can rinse and repeat and crush it as the man in your relationship every day. And so that's why at the end of my talks, guys are, rushing the books. And I'm like, please, can we save some for the ladies? But, I really want to just speak to the fact that I really appreciate that guys, the ones that I've spoken to on this subject, they really are hungry for this information. They want, because they know what it feels like to biohack their own biology and how powerful it is. They want that for their female beloved partners, and they also want to do that within the scope of their relationship. But everybody's missing that critical.
Yes.
Oh, so true. I mean, there's things that we talk about on the show, right? It's not about the nail, like guys want to always fix things, but in a way, it's almost like twofold, because we know that we shouldn't fix everything. Like, I'm going to just create space and hold her and let her cry and whatever's going on. But on the fixing standpoint that we kind of naturally have within ourselves, it's nice that, like, hey, if I knew about this, if I was aware about this, like you just said, that I can kind of like, quote unquote, fix, if you will.
No, but like, it's not fixing though.
Well, yeah, that's the wrong word for it.
It's the wrong word. And let me give you the better word. It's participating.
Yes.
Yes, I love
that.
It's being, just like I want women to be actively participating with their hormonal self-care.
Yes.
You too can actively participate with the hormonal reality of each of the two of you to make your relationship inclusive, truly inclusive.
Yeah.
That is empowering. There's nobody needs to be fixed. You're all good with your biology. She's all good with hers.
For sure.
You need to take care of your self-care.
Yes.
And then you need to participate with each other to, biohack that relationship together.
Yeah, one of our favorite statements that we say often is seek to understand, right? So if we just could understand why and how we both operate, then we can optimize for those things. And I really want to tap into something, because we talked a little bit about the infradian rhythm and the different phases of that cycle that we all that women have. But I also want to, and I really want to dive into that so people understand it. But I also really want to highlight something that I've heard you say many times, and I was just like, everyone needs to hear this. That there is a major reason why men have so much success with diets and meal plans and fitness plans out there, and there's a huge reason why women don't. And can you speak on that, of how really women have just kind of been ignored in research and anything to do with wellness and fitness and weight loss? Can you speak on that? Because I think it's so mind-blowing.
So I was, after I wrote the first book, I thought, there was the book, and then there was this sort of shift that was happening online in the wellness media sites, and there was also this menstrual movement taking place. I don't know if you remember, the woman who ran the London Marathon free bleeding, and girls were posting pictures of themselves bleeding on Instagram, and I was like, this is historic. I mean, from a women's history point of view, this has never happened, and then even myself, I went on Dr. Oz. I was the first human being to use fruit juices to simulate the color of menstrual blood on national television ever, anywhere on planet Earth.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, this menstruation is becoming mainstream. This is great. This should equal logically then a decrease in health problems for women's hormones, because we have more information, more normalization of the conversation, increased access via the internet. Problem solved. But I kept tracking the stats, and we're now at the point where almost 50% of females suffer with the hormonal imbalance. It's outrageous. So I was looking into that. It was just making me upset.
Yeah, that makes me upset. 50%. That's an astronomical number of women that are suffering.
That's probably under reporting.
Yes.
Wow.
Because you also have to factor in that 1 out of 2 women suffer from thyroid issues. Then you have 1 in 8 with PCOS, 1 in 10 with endo, 1 in 8 couples with infertility. I mean, it's the statistics are staggering, and we're not even talking about the 100% of women who go through perimenopause with symptoms and menopause with symptoms who also have no treatment options. I mean, it's breathtaking. So I being a passionate advocate for womankind, I was like, okay, I got to figure out what is going on. And so I looked, and what I discovered were 2 key things. The first is that women are being left out of medical fitness and nutrition research pretty much whole hog. And so what that means, the medical community is aware of it. And for the past decade plus, they've been doing what they can to include more women in human clinical trials. Progress has been slow, but they are aware, they are trying. So that is great. Fitness and nutrition, it's very hit or miss. I don't think it's being done on purpose. I just think that there is maybe some unconscious gender bias where there's, again, this mythological assumption that studying women is more complicated because of their hormones, which is poppycock, because, think about the nuanced biohacking data and testing and monitoring that people can do now for things like gene variations and continuous glucose monitors and all sorts of tracking and personalization. If we're capable of creating testing and analyses for this type of nuanced stuff, the female hormonal pattern is just predictable. It's not that complicated. So it's just bad inherited habit, I think. But regardless of why it's happening, the fact is it has been happening. Yes. So what that means for you is that anything that you've ever heard about any diet, paleo, keto, intermittent fasting, low fat, high fat, pick a diet. All of it has been researched on men. Sometimes postmenopausal women are included. But pretty much reproductive year women are left out. And what is salient about that is that it's being shared with you as if it is universally applicable. And when I brought this up to journalists, female journalists, they're like, they're shocked at themselves. Like, I can't believe that I myself just accepted the absence of female study participants and accepted that this would somehow be universally applicable. The conditioning is across the board. Yeah. So it's not just you, even the journalists themselves as women, are kind of like, oh yeah, sure, intermittent fasting, I'm sure if it works for the guys, I'm sure it's going to be good for us. No. And here's why, which led me to the second thing.
Yes.
Which is that women have a biological rhythm that has been completely ignored. No one has ever even known the name. And since my book came out, I've been talking to so many people, including doctors, who had never heard about this. It is not a term I invented. It exists in medical literature.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it is called the infradian rhythm. And it refers to this female hormonal cycle. Now, we all have a circadian rhythm, and we all now appreciate how important aligning with that circadian rhythm is for our health. It's a key tool in biohacking and in the current biohacking community, like aligning and supporting the circadian rhythm. There's no conversation happening about the infradian rhythm. In fact, it is as women are expected to operate as if it doesn't exist.
Yep.
And the issue is, it is running your biological show, not just about your period, because that would be really underappreciating its impact. Just like it would be underappreciating the impact of the circadian rhythm to say, oh, it just affects your sleep-wake cycles.
Like, no.
Right.
It goes way beyond that, you know? And similarly, to say that, oh, the infradian rhythm just affects when you're bleeding, when you're ovulating, is too simplistic. But it turns out it affects brain pattern function. It affects metabolic rate. It affects immune response. It affects stress response patterns. And it affects your reproductive system, which is comprised of the trifecta of your cycle, your fertility, and your sex drive. So if you then put these two parts of the equation together, which is one, you have been adopting practices with diet and fitness and time management and morning routines and success hacking and you name it, that have been researched and designed to optimize only for the circadian rhythm, which happens to also follow the male hormonal pattern. You then are by default disrupting your infradian rhythm and causing all 6 of these systems of your body to perform suboptimally,
So crazy.
which then can lead to conditions and symptoms and diseases. And this is all happening without you realizing it, because you are not being informed that you have this biological rhythm, and it is not being included in research. And the research that is being, shared with us is not being sort of shared in this transparent way about who has been studied, which cohort, which age, which gender, who this is applicable for. We have to have a much more nuanced and inclusive dialogue about what wellness is for an individual. And some of that has to be based on gender and the biology of your hormones,
Yes.
a piece of it.
So I just want everyone listening, like if you are a woman listening and you've ever tried any diet, any workout plan, and especially if you've done it kind of opposite with a guy friend or a male partner, and they had so much success and you didn't, please understand that you are not crazy, that there's maybe nothing even
You're
wrong
not a
with
failure.
you. It's just not, because I've had this, right? Like so many times, and I feel like so many of our community and our clients, especially women, struggle with weight loss or struggle with mental health or emotional health. And they're trying all these different things and nothing's working. And it's for this exact reason, I really feel. And so I really hope everybody listening really tunes in right now and follows this incredible woman and the work that she's doing to change it.
I mean, here's what it comes down to. If you do any self-care practice that has you following the same pattern every day, eating the same calories, for example, or doing the same HIIT workout every day, or doing the same morning routine every day, and you have functioning ovaries, this is going to cause you enormous problems. It's going to disrupt your ovulation. It's going to exacerbate PMS. It's going to cause anxiety. It's going to cause issues with your sex drive. You do not want to, you have to abandon the conditioning. You have to unhook yourself from this conditioning that you should strive to be the same every day.
Yes.
You are not the same. You are a dynamic, cyclical, biological person. Men are also cyclical, but in a 24-hour pattern, which is why they can and should, for their own optimal health and performance, strive for the same routine daily, because that aligns with their biochemical patterns. You should do the same idea, but apply it to your actual pattern, which has 4 parts and changes once a month.
Yes.
That's it. And I also do think that it will help us as women heal from the psychopathology of perfectionism.
Yes.
Because perfectionism, first of all, it's like calculus. You know, we never arrive at infinity, right? We only approach it, and nothing in nature is perfect. And it's not scientifically accurate to strive for perfection. Progress, however, is a wonderful thing to pursue. But for women, I think at puberty, with our developing child brain, we feel the infradian rhythm gets activated at puberty. We feel the powerful dynamic energies of our body, but we are then really starting to observe for the first time with our maturing understanding that the world is oriented around this sort of like the same routine. Like if you have a routine, that's going to lead to success, right?
Yes.
And so you start to try to become perfect, which I think is just a word that we use to replace the concept of trying to be the same every day. And it's not healthy because it's out of alignment with your biology. So it would be wonderful too, can you imagine if you were 11 and I somehow magically appeared with fairy dust in your house?
Yes.
And I sat you down and I was like, hey girl, guess what's happening in your brain?
We need that.
Your pituitary gland is like getting activated, and you're going to have this second biological clock that's about to get turned on called the infradian rhythm. And it's going to cause you to have 4 pattern changes every month, and everything that you do should be synchronized to these 4 pattern changes so that you can supercharge absolutely anything you want to do in your life. I wouldn't even talk about periods at 11. I would talk about the infradian rhythm, because if you got that message at 11, you'd be like, whoa, I am sitting on nuclear energy. I am sitting on a force of nature. It's in me. It's about to be unleashed in my life. I'm so excited.
Yes.
Right?
The beautiful, wild, divine feminine that it is. Very much nature, for sure. And if you're just joining us, you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio, where we're interviewing and having so much fun with Alisa Vitti, and just talking about the infradian rhythm and just the 4 patterns every month that women go through, these superpowers, really. You said it so eloquently and beautifully, Lisa. But I think that's I love that you talk about them as superpowers, because I really feel like they are. I think at each stage, there's so much beauty and power that can come from each of those stages. And when we're honoring them, or when the women are honoring them, like Rachel has been doing, it is so profound, not only for her professional life, her personal life, the friendships, just everything, and seeing her ebb and flow into that has been really beautiful. So thank you for joining us.
Yes.
And
and I just wanted to say that, like, for most of my life, I felt like at least for a certain weeks out of the month, I felt like a failure because I didn't have the same energy. I wasn't honoring the fact that I didn't need sleep. But the system, what I love that you talk about, is that we're trying to force ourselves into a masculine system, and we're feeling like we're failures, or we have extreme burnout or overwhelm or stress or anxiety, because it just doesn't match up. And most, myself included, I think most women experience this feeling of feeling like they're not enough, or like they're failures, or they can't handle everything, or they're bitchy, or they're overwhelming, or they're whatever. And
we judge ourselves deeply, negatively, operating in the same way each and every day, and that's such a mistake.
Yes.
And the only reason why you're making that mistake and having that negative self-judgment is because you have lacked the education about your infradian rhythm. That is it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that way about yourself. You wouldn't feel that way about yourself.
For sure.
I do not judge. Well, and also you have to appreciate all these different phases. Let me get into the phases.
Yes, get into the phases, because we need.
And I will say that after I made this big sort of, I had this aha moment about these 2 parts of the equation. Of course, I didn't want to just paint a picture frame around the problem. I wanted to create a new method for us to live in alignment with this infradian rhythm that has never been talked about before. So I created something called the cycle syncing method, and it's detailed in the book, in the flow, chart by chart, what to eat when, which workouts to do when. In chapter 6 is the world's first time management system that it includes the infradian rhythm, right? I don't know about you, but like that, I tried Franklin Covey, Tony Robbins, who I love, and, you know, all these time management systems I couldn't use because they demanded that I would do the same routine every day, or even listening to biohacking conversations where it's like, dial in your morning routine, keep it sacrosanct. You have to, I'm like, yo, if I have the same morning routine each of the phases of my cycle, I will disrupt my hormones.
Yes.
You cannot I have 4 morning routines, depending on which phase I'm in.
Let's get into those, because women.
Yeah.
Okay, so listen,
Rachel wants to hear that.
Like,
I want to hear that.
What do I do, guys? What do I do?
Yeah.
So you have 4 phases to your cycle: follicular, ovulatory, luteal, and the bleeding phase. Because isn't it confusing that it's like menstrual phase, menstrual cycle, menstruation could be the week you're bleeding or the whole month?
Yes.
Let me assure you that there is no doubling up on language with male reproductive anatomy. There's a specific word for every function. So I would like to just call the bleeding week, and we can talk about menstruation as referring to the whole process.
Yes.
That's just my preference, just so
love
you know
it.
where I'm coming from. Okay, so we have these 4 phases. Precision is key so that we can know ourselves.
Yes.
Right? In the follicular phase, you have low levels of hormones, but rising levels of estrogen, gently rising. So this just gently stimulates the brain into being interested and curious in new ideas, new things. So this is sort of like an optimal time for planning out your month, project planning, thinking through what you want to do and achieve and accomplish. Metabolically, your metabolism is slightly slower, so you don't need as many calories. And stress response wise, your stress response is your resting cortisol levels are slightly lower. So you can really do intense workouts and get the most bang for your buck out of like cardio and HIIT workouts. Cardio workouts. And you know, there's more and more details as you go, right? It's a dry phase, so you need lubricant if you're going to engage in self-pleasure or partnered pleasure. Okay. Then we move into the ovulatory phase. We have peak surge in estrogen. We also have surges in FSH and LH, and a little hit of testosterone for the first time. But it's the estrogen here that really drives you. You have a hyperstimulation of the verbal and social centers of the brain. So obviously, doing anything and everything that leverages your verbal skills and socializing is an optimal thing to plan for that week. Metabolically speaking, again, you're still slower metabolism, so you don't need as many calories. But because of that surge in estrogen, you need to support the liver to break that estrogen down. Because for those of you like thinking, everybody talks about ovulation as like this magical phase. I'm supposed to look and feel my best, but you're breaking out with pimples on your chin. And you have like ovarian pain, which is called Mittelschmerz during ovulation. That's a sign that your body's not metabolizing estrogen. So in the book, you'll see that there are specific foods I recommend to help your liver just break that estrogen down and get it out through the bowel faster. So you can biohack that estrogen surge, if you will. Then resting cortisol levels are still low, but because you have that surge of testosterone, you can build a lot of lean muscle. So you want to do HIIT workouts, okay? And on and on and on. This is a wet phase, so you don't need as much lubricant. I mean, there's all deep, there's chart after chart after chart. You do not have to feel lost or overwhelmed. I'm just trying to give you some highlights.
No,
so you understand.
it's
well,
beautiful.
And I hope people listening can really see how powerful this is, right? That it's not necessarily what diet to do or what kind of lifestyle choices, it's when to
It's
do
a method.
them.
When.
Yeah, it's when.
It's a method to, it's when, that's right. And that is no longer mysterious or accidental. If you want to create a particular outcome with your body, there's a method by which you now can do that. That is in alignment with your infradian rhythm. You do not have to feel like a victim ever again. That's like before the infradian rhythm, right?
Well, even in sexual health, right? Like I think a lot of women are like, don't understand why certain times they're like more dry or more wet, and the man's like, oh, how come you're not wet? Are you not?
The woman feels bad about herself because we've all been conditioned via pornography to think that we should be wet and responsive and climactic instantly.
Yes.
And you need different amounts of foreplay at different phases of the cycle. You need different lubrication support at different phases of the cycle. Men empowered with this information can be such a great participant in your pleasure once they know the pattern. I mean, it's really predictable. Okay, so then we move into the second half of the cycle, the luteal and the menstrual phase. In the luteal phase, metabolism speeds up. Okay. And we have the introduction of progesterone for the first time in the cycle. This has a really powerful effect on your brain chemistry, making you very focused and very completion oriented. It's the longest phase in the cycle, which is awesome, which means that even though the luteal phase gets this bad rap for being your PMS, spaced out, anxious and depressed phase, that's only if you're disrupting your infradian rhythm and not taking care of your hormones. PMS is not normal. It's a sign of a hormonal imbalance. You can eat your way out of it, and you must, because the biocycle study shows that untreated PMS in your reproductive years can increase your risk for the 4 big diseases of inflammation postmenopausally: heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and dementia. So you want to not joke about with your girlfriends like, oh my God, my PMS is so bad. You want to shake each other and say, we better start cycle syncing.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge, by the way, because, like we talked about before, my father's a neurosurgeon, my mother is a registered dietitian, and they are now working with people on nutrition. But a lot of times they're coming at it way late after the problem's already happening. They're already dealing with brain cancer. They're dealing with dementia. And how empowered we can be as women and men to be like, hey, wait, if you're having PMS, like that means that's like an alarm system. That's not like, hey, just suffer along. It's like, hey, alarm, alarm.
That's biofeedback. Yes. Again, and this is what I mean, like the biohacking conversation and community does not talk about PMS as a biofeedback data point that we should be tracking. I am, but it's not an inclusive enough community and conversation, and it needs to be up, needs to do that. Okay, so then we're in the luteal phase. Metabolism speeds up. Research has documented that you need 279 more calories per day in the luteal phase. If you don't eat the calories, you're going to disrupt your insulin levels, ovulation, and exacerbate your PMS. You have to eat more, period. Puns intended always with me. Okay. And then also, resting cortisol levels are higher, which means studies show you must not engage in cardio or HIIT workouts after you ovulate once you're in the luteal phase, because it turns on fat storage. It turns on muscle wasting.
Look at that. Say that again.
So if you are working your butt off in the first half of your cycle and you have bought into the misunderstanding that you're supposed to do the same calorie amount and the same workout intensity every day, and now you're in the second half of the cycle when your infradian rhythm has shifted your metabolism, cortisol patterns, you're going to undo any gains you've made in weight, in fat loss, and in muscle gain that you had achieved in the first half just by not aligning with what's happening with your cycle. It's so unnecessary. How do you think I've maintained this weight loss for so long?
Yes.
By using the cycle syncing method. Totally. So you do, what workouts do you do instead? Slow strength training, heavy weightlifting, Pilates, walking, and yin yoga, and that kind of stuff you can do every single day. You can do jumping on a trampoline for a few minutes every single day, for cortisol flushing. But if you're going to do a rebounder workout, do that in the first half of the cycle. Yes. Do your mat Pilates classes or your megaformer stuff in the second half, right? And then when you get to the menstrual phase, this is very profound. Hormone levels drop to their lowest, which allows for maximal communication across the corpus callosum, which is this bundle of nerve fibers that connects the two hemispheres of your brain, which means that you are primed to really make critical decisions optimally. Which nobody ever thinks about when they're on their period, right? They're like, oh, this is like a throwaway week. I'm just going to hunker down and eat chocolate and watch movies. No, you should not be doing that. I mean, chocolate, yes. But you should definitely be evaluating the facts about how key areas of your life are progressing and how you feel about those areas, about those facts. And then you should synthesize the facts and the feelings that you have and make decisions that then will affect and inform the next arrival at your next follicular phase, the plans you're going to make for the following month. The idea that you would wait only till December 31st to make this sort of like big shift and resolutions is ridiculous when you have the infradian rhythm, because you have to do it every month, right? You want to, if you want to, the power of the cycle is that it's continuously rotating in a forward motion. So, you know, what's more powerful in physics? You know, rotational energy or push energy, right? Obviously rotational energy. So if you want to go farther faster, leaning into your cyclical energy is going to accelerate transformation in all areas of your life, because every month during your bleed, you're going to be evaluating, how am I doing with my self-care? How am I doing with career? How am I doing with relationships? What do I want to change, you know, in March? What am I going to change in June? What am I going to change in July? You know, just keep making new commitments to what you want based on your desires and evaluations. It's profound. And then because hormone levels are at their lowest, you need extra support with hormone production. So we want to front load more amino acid rich foods, mineral rich foods, and we want to do restorative movement. We're not pushing to a heavy workout. We're not doing any cardio. Again, it's just because it's not because we're pandering to, oh, you're on your period and therefore you should like do nothing. No, take a vigorous walk if you're up to it. Do some yoga, do some stretching, go to a stretching class. But restore and rest to some extent, whatever that looks like for you based on your athleticism. And that's beneficial for anybody's training program, you know, because you can't, anybody who's a serious athlete, like you have been in the past, you know that constantly pushing the body leads to injury. So what's nice about your hormonal pattern and your infradian rhythm is that it forces you to cross-train, and that gives you the best results with the least amount of effort and the least amount of injury.
Oh, it's just so good. Like I can't even.
Like never try it again.
What a gift.
Work out less and get more fit. You're very welcome.
No, it's true, because so many women struggle so much, myself included, with like all of a sudden I'm like, why is my body holding on to more weight when I'm working out harder and I'm eating less?
That's why it's holding on to more weight. That's why, because you've told it to store fat. That's so why. Crazy. And so now you can stop doing that. I just like how matter of fact it is. Like, need the information, and then it's not this like, which diet should I try? Which one should I like throw spaghetti at the wall? Should I do intermittent fasting? Should I do paleo? No. You have this metabolic pattern. You have this cortisol pattern. Do the things that work for that, period.
So beautiful. My gosh. And it's almost like we always talk about on the show about like, you know, we don't want people to settle in relationships. We don't want people to settle with anything in their life, really. And I think with this conversation, not settling with they have to be in pain or suffering in these cycles. It's like, no, use them to your advantage. So, so beautiful.
Like, and I think my favorite part is that when women take on the cycle syncing method, we have this whole community. You can come and join us at cyclesyncingmembership.com. But we're all infradian girls living in a circadian world. It's really fun. And and basically, you know, what everybody says in their own way is, I didn't know I could feel this good, and I didn't know things could be so easy.
And speaking of that,
exactly. That's the whole premise behind the title of the book is, you know, this idea of a flow state has been described by psychologists for, you know, peak athletic performance. But when it comes to women, once you make your infradian rhythm the center of your self-care, your time management, your project management, your relationship, you know, organization, even motherhood, you can be in a peak state of flow in all these areas of your life with less effort. It's great on the other side. Come get the way out of all the stress is in infradian. Come on.
Well, and if you're listening right now, you're like, gosh, I want to do this so bad. You can actually use the code RENEGADE to get 1 free month of her cycle syncing method, which I think, please go there. Please share that with like everyone that you possibly can, because it will literally change their life. I'm speaking from personal experience. Like, it's just... your work and this whole idea of honoring the female system. I mean, even just the fact of, well, I get to actually know that I can eat more, and I can eat foods like root vegetables that I love, but I used to avoid. Like I used to be scared of carbohydrates when I was trying to do keto or intermittent fasting. And now, according to your, cycle syncing method and the Flow Track app that I have, like I can literally just know, I literally get updates from you all the time saying, oh, you're in this phase now, eat this kinds of food, do
That's
these
awesome.
kinds of
Wow.
workouts, and I'm just like, this is incredible. So again, if you're listening, use the code Renegade, go join HOR. You get 1 free month of the cycle syncing method.
CycleSyncingMembership.com.
Yes, it's going to be incredible.
So incredible. Well, if you guys are listening right now, we're going to be jumping into one of our segments right
Yes.
now. Rachel, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so we do rapid fire segment, and this is just so we get to know you better and the audience gets to know you better. So these are rapid fire fun questions. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay.
I'll do my best. No
Okay.
pressure.
Okay. What makes you most sad?
Missing my mom.
Yeah,
Missing my mom. Yep.
that's a
Thank you for
good
sharing
one.
that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that one. I think a lot of people probably share that with you as well.
Yeah.
Let's go with this second rapid fire question. What are your pet peeves? But then also the flip side of that, what are the things you really love?
Oh, I'm just going to be thinking about my husband. Who I adore.
On the love side, of course. No, I'm just kidding.
Who could teach next to me about cycle syncing, our relationship and our sex life. We've been married for I don't know now how long. He keeps the time of how long we've been married. I'm like forever.
Yeah.
But I really can't stand it when things are not put back in the refrigerator where they're supposed to be. So when I'm trying to cook, I'm like, where's this? Where's that? He just likes to play. He just puts it anywhere. And I'm like, dude, these things go on the top shelf. These things. I like a system. Obviously, I'm a systems creator. So I like a system. And also it drives me nuts when we're sleeping in bed and I've made the bed and he kicks the sheets off, like the bottom, like untucks the bottom of the bed. I'm like, I'm freezing. Why can't the bed stay made? He's like, my feet need to be free. I'm like, dude, I don't get it.
That's amazing.
That's my peeve. Very silly.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love
Not
it.
a big deal pet peeves.
Yes,
Beautiful.
I love it.
Amazing.
Okay, and then what's one thing you love about? We'll
Yeah,
just say your
something that-
husband
yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's aligned.
Since we're husband focused?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. He is the person that I have been and always want to be in the foxhole with.
I love that.
Like, just the amount of trust and safety and like, I don't know. He's a special human being. Obviously,
yeah.
you can imagine our first date.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
yeah.
were talking about periods. And, the look of like awe, curiosity, and pride at my work on his face on my first date, I was like, so far, so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, we talk about that all the time. We always want to create a space, not only for me for her and for her to me, but also to co-create a space, even on this show, where people feel safe, seen, heard, and loved. And no matter what life is thrown at us, like we're in that foxhole, it's like, hey, who can we be with where we're creating that for each other, no matter what?
Yep.
And that, and then of course, if we have this cycle syncing at the same time, then,
Next level.
Yeah.
Next level. No, I mean, I think I was reflecting, thinking about another book. I don't know what's wrong with me. Anyway,
Yeah.
I was reflecting. I think, in when you're dating or when you're in a relationship or any phase of your relationship, you have to keep showing the person the fullness of the truth of who you are,
Yes.
what you value and what you desire. I mean, I remember on our second date, I said to him before the appetizers arrived, I'm quoting myself here, I'm only interested in co-creating extraordinary relationship at this point in my life.
It's great.
So that I could empower him to really be clear if he wanted to like take that journey or be like, I just want to like casually date. Like you have to tell your truth unabashedly, unapologetically, passionately, fearlessly, so that you can, attract what you should be attracting.
Yeah, we talk about that as the great filtration process, right? It's Seriously. Like if you're not authentically you, then you're creating facades. Then how do you really know if you're in love? Because or if that's the person for you, because it's you're creating a facade. So how could they know if they love you? Because it's not based in actual truth.
Which reminds me of some conversations I've had with other male biohackers who now make it a prerequisite of getting really serious with someone that someone, if they're female, gets off of synthetic birth control because it's been shown. Many studies show that women who are on synthetic birth control are attracted to partners with two similar immunological variants. And then there's like it changes the chemistry of desire. Yeah. And then also you're not even in the flow of your infrating rhythm. So you're not fully who you are. You're not in the truth of your fullness. And so I think that it's interesting to see how Generation Z, especially both the women and the men, are really not digging the idea of altering one's biochemistry synthetically, but really, supporting it, and that being a powerful tool in relationship. And that's something that I think we're going to hear more and more about as documentaries about synthetic birth control are being produced by people like Ricky Lake and Abby Epstein, and that are coming out soon. It's a really fascinating time for relationships.
Yeah. And I know we're in the rapid fire segment, but I think this is such an important topic that, we'll get into, because I want to talk more about birth control and what women can do if they're on it or if they've been on it in the past. Sure. So let's leave people on a cliffhanger.
Yes.
Because I love this rapid fire question. Last one. What are you learning right now?
God, I'm always learning about something. I've been learning most recently how to make delicious 15-minute meals with 5 ingredients.
Ooh.
Honestly, it's been like my new favorite game.
Ooh.
How can I cook dinner for my kid in 15, or my husband, in 15 minutes with 5 ingredients? And so it's like a fun little Tetris game I've been, and I have some fun recipes.
Yeah, I feel like you could have a whole recipe book.
I saw some on Instagram. It looked good.
I'm taking lots of inspiration from other real chefs like Jamie Oliver and whatever. Yes. But like, I love this idea of making dinner prep, especially now in the pandemic world, quarantining. I want to just like eat well, but I don't want to make it the focus of my day cooking.
Yes.
Yeah, no, love it.
True.
And last fire question here before we move on is, where will you be in 3 years?
I don't know. We'll see. But if I travel,
we're just gonna go with the flow.
Which is exactly what I was about to say. If the track record serves me, I will be continuing to listen to my inner guidance, my sensations about opportunities and experiences, but I will be true to my mission and my purpose, which is to doing work that helps, women's healthcare improve, and also really doing work on myself to just be more patient and kind and loving to myself and everybody around me.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you said that to myself and then everyone around you, because a core theme on the show is the realization and the understanding that like we can't give away what we don't have. So if I haven't figured out how to create a peaceful, supportive space within myself, how can I expect to create that with anybody else? And so I really love that you were like, me first, and then it goes to everybody else.
Yeah.
Which is super cool.
Big time. And, when I ask that question too, I never try to assume these days. So I'll just ask, when you talk about helping out with the women's, wellness and hormonal, being a hormonal advocate with everything we've been talking about. When we talk about the healthcare, like in the beginning, where women have been ignored in a lot of these studies and research with fitness and food and everything, is that something that you're probably already doing it now, but like full force, whether it's a year, 3 years down the line, continuously embedding all of your practices and research into that? Would you want to do that more so?
You mean into the conventional healthcare system?
Yeah, well, yeah. So, where it's not ignored anymore, and they're utilizing what you've researched and what you're doing to integrate into that. To provide.
However, I can serve. My immediate goal is to, obviously make sure that every woman knows about FloLiving as a resource for her from her first period to her last. And we're doing a tremendous amount of new product rollouts this year, updating the app. There's so much that we're doing to make it easy. It should just be easy, right? Like, oh, you've got heavy bleeding. I'm going to go to FloLiving and this is exactly what I need to know. And here's what I need to do, right? Yeah. So we're breaking it down. We're going to make it super simple, even more so. And then, however I can support the conversation evolving, I'm always happy to do that.
Let's get you in every, I remember in elementary school and they teach you about you have sex ed or whatever, and they teach you about, puberty and your period and what's going to happen. You just need to be in every school. Your book should be required reading. I'm here to just visualize it.
I'll have to, maybe I can put together some, or, it'd be interesting to, figure out how to improve that educational model. I think it does a disservice to both boys and girls the way that it currently is, to just talk about, I remember the genders being separated first and foremost, which right then and there is problematic.
Yeah.
And then, I think the focus should really be on biological rhythms and not on so much on the mechanics of, erections and bleeding.
Yeah.
So true. Because that can come much later. I think when sex ed is introduced at 6th grade, talking about things that are a little bit less, intense, can be helpful for that particular developmental stage.
Totally agree. And really want to also go back to this question we talked about, because I think it's something that is so common, birth control, and what people can do, how they can educate themselves on what might be going on within their system if they do decide to do that, and also helpful tools maybe if they decide to change what they're doing. Because I know it could be a process and things, we've heard of so many relationships being severely affected when someone decides to go off of it, and how scary that might be. If I'm like, oh wait, but I love this relationship, and if I go off the pill, what if it messes it up? Or what if I have acne?
Let me start off by saying, if you're on birth control, I would highly recommend you read Dr. Sarah Hill's book called Your Brain on Birth Control, because what you will discover, and it will be disturbing, is that you are not yourself when you're on that medication. It profoundly changes your brain function, your personality, who and what you're attracted to, your interests. It's disturbing that you are unaware of that we've all been unaware of that. That's on the brain side. Then on the health side, it's extremely disruptive because synthetic birth control destroys gut microbiome, depletes key micronutrients. It can be really problematic for your health. And while you're on it, if you're not supplementing properly to replenish those micronutrients and take care of your gut, when you go off of it, which you will eventually likely go off of it at some point, you will very likely experience something that we now call post-pill depletion, which is sort of like this, again, think about it, if you've been depleting B vitamins and D vitamins and magnesium and other, essential micronutrients for a decade without, trying to at least keep the balance in your check account, so to speak, right, at net zero every day, and you're just constantly going into debt daily with these micronutrients, by the time you're off, you're going to be so deep in the hole of micronutrient deficiency that you're going to have secondary health issues that might seem unrelated to your hormones, but that have everything to do with that long-standing micronutrient depletion due to that synthetic chemical exposure.
Wow.
So it's really critical. And then, like I said, the impact on relationships, so listen, I am 100% pro birth control. You want it, you should have it. It should just arrive in the mailbox with a bow and be easy and no problem for you to get. And there are many, many companies in the femtech space that are making it one touch, online. And that is a good thing. and we should continue to have access. What I take issue with is the prescription of synthetic birth control as a treatment for chronic hormonal imbalances, which it was never designed to treat. It's designed to shut off the conversation between your pituitary gland and your ovaries so that you never ovulate and you never menstruate, so that you don't become pregnant. That is what it was designed for. That is what it does. Anybody who's like, oh, but I have a period while I'm on the pill, you do not. You have something that is referred to as a breakthrough bleed, only because when they first introduced the product into the market in the 40s and 50s, the women who were on the continuous pill never bled, and they were very disturbed by not seeing that monthly flow. So they put in 5 sugar pills, right, in the pill packet, so that you have some breakthrough bleeding, meaning the little bit of estrogen that you get every day, that's the same dose, might have some stimulating effect on the endometrium. And then when you take the sugar pills, it might leak out, right?
Wow.
But it is not a bleed. It is not a cycle. It's not a menstrual period, and you have not ovulated at all. So, but that's what it's designed to do. So you have no infradian rhythm happening. That's all suppressed. You have no ovulation. You have no menstrual cycle.
Wow.
You're in like a no phase zone. And of course, that doesn't fix your PCOS, your endometriosis. It's not a cure. I mean, remember back to my original story.
Yeah.
The doctor was like, taking birth control will not cure your PCOS. And I'm like, well, why would I take a medication that's not going to fix what's wrong? She's like, well, this is all that we have. And I just think we deserve better. I mean, if you think about the way men's issues are dealt with, like 30, 40 years ago, some older guy walked into his general practitioner's office and said, hey, doc, you know, he's in his 60s. He's got a new second young wife who's in her 40s. And he's like, you know, I'd like to have more quality erections like I used to. Got anything for me, doc? He was like, no, I don't. But let me get billions of dollars in funding so that we can create a medication specifically just to improve your erection when you're older, so that you can have, you know, more erections. And it is not life-threatening. It doesn't affect the quality of your life every single day. Let's just have a medication for that. But for every single woman who every single month, half the month, is suffering with debilitating cramps or excessive bleeding, or missing periods, or ovarian cysts, or whatever, let's just give them all the same medication. And even though it won't fix them, let's just stop it there.
So crazy. It's so crazy.
I just would like to see in this, glorious new century that we're in, like, let's expect more.
Yeah.
Let's have, like, I'm all for medication. I'm all for treatment. Yeah. If it's precise and effective. Certainly if I could have taken a pill 20 years ago that would have cured my PCOS, that would have been great.
Yeah.
But that's not the way really systemic issues work, which, anybody who's working in the field of diabetes, for example, will tell you you have to change diet and lifestyle factors for major systems of the body to function more optimally. And we have evolved our understanding with functional medicine that we shouldn't be thinking about these magic pills to fix all of our ills. And so I think, we should just be more mindful as women. But, I think that women would be less interested in taking synthetic birth control for their chronic hormonal issues if they were informed about the fact that they are not a victim, that there's so much that they can do, and that they can resolve things naturally, truly.
Yes. Well, like you said, you can eat your way out of it. I think that is such a great phrase, right? It's like so many of us have like learned how to like think that food is the enemy, or think that food is like to avoid food because we think it's going to make us gain weight. It's actually the opposite. It's like, no, just learn what to do, when to do it, and what foods to eat that would actually help balance your hormones regularly.
Food can be used therapeutically to create lots of different effects in the body. And so if you want to be on birth control because you want to, be 100% certain, and even though birth control is not 100% preventative of pregnancy, it's 97%, I think, you can. But, you can also now, in the age of biohacking, you can get a sensor-based connected device that tells you with precision when you are ovulating, right? So the technology has evolved that you don't need to guard against potential, pregnancy any day of the month. That's the other thing that we don't know. Your egg is only viable for 48 hours. Those women who are in the trying to conceive infertility category will tell you how difficult it is to get pregnant. The egg is only viable for 48 hours. You can't just get pregnant on any Tuesday of the month. Yeah. You cannot. Okay. And sperm can live inside the body for up to 5 days if that is very fresh and young and healthy sperm. Wow. Which means your fertile window is maximum 7 days. So you don't have to take a medication that shuts off your whole cycle every single day for just this 7-day period of time. You can use double barrier methods. You can use the connected devices to know exactly when that egg is dropping, and you can just abstain for 48 hours if you're super paranoid about it. That's not the only tool that you have now to prevent pregnancy. And then when it comes to, if you're using it to deal with hormonal issues, there's a whole world waiting for you of natural therapeutics to help you really resolve the root causes of your hormonal dysfunction so that you can, if you so desire, be without that medication.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I love about, this is just so mind-blowing, especially for a male perspective. Before we go into our renegade moment, what I also liked that you talked about in your book is not only where, we were talking about how you can eat your way out of emotions in a good way and knowing the type of foods and the different phases of the month, but also like the different, when you age, right? So from 25 to 35, the different foods, minerals, herbs, supplementation to 35 to 45 and then 45 plus. And how, we change. We're different at each of those times. And how you break that down, I think, is fantastic.
It goes for men too, by the way.
Yeah.
Andropause, which is the male version of decreased production of male hormones, begins at 25 for men.
Wow.
So if you don't biohack your testosterone production, you're really going to be noticing that by the time you're in your mid-30s.
Yeah.
With your erections, with the quantity of ejaculate, the volume of ejaculate, with your libido, with your lean muscle gain, your fat stores. I mean, we all have to understand how our hormones work if we're going to be healthy. They really run the show.
Yeah.
I know we like to think we're like, all in our head and like, free-thinking like beings, but like, we are biological creatures hardwired for certain things. Yeah. We have to do what works best.
Yeah.
For us. Yeah.
Well, and like you said, so many people think that hormones are the enemy, right? When actually they're incredible tools.
They're the tools.
Yeah.
They're the tools. We just have to learn how to harmonize with them and optimize them and have a great relationship with them. And in a recent interview we did, I loved this quote that was like, it isn't necessarily about what we do, it's about our relationship to what we do. And I think that's so prevalent in your work as well, that it really is about, no, this system that we've been told is like the worst, like gross, taboo thing is actually something to be honored. And once we honor it and learn about it and optimize for it, then we literally do light up these superpowers within. And it's very empowering as a woman. And I know it's enhanced our relationship so well. Before we get into that renegade moment, because I really want to get into that, men listening right now, what's obviously, other than like getting your book and giving it to, and maybe even reading it together or recommending your app, is there something that you help or teach men do if the woman's really struggling? How can they best support their female partner or mother or sister in this process?
Well, I think because we're on the radio right now, men, if you're listening, you want to know this answer, stay tuned after the Renegade Moment with Alisa Vitti. So, let's jump into the Renegade Moment because I want people to really
be on a cliffhanger.
But to hear the Renegade Moment because it's important on our show, but also continue to talk about how this can benefit the male side.
So leave it on a cliffhanger. I'm going to remember that question, so you remember it as well. Sharing your renegade moment really is like the moment that you chose differently. Like being a renegade is the whole concept is like we don't have to keep choosing the same things over and over and over again. And those powerful breakthrough moments when you decided, hey, like enough is enough. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I choose this now. Can you share a powerful Renegade moment?
Some life-changing moment.
I mean, definitely that moment in the doctor's office.
Yes.
For sure.
For sure, that was the first one. But I mean, I can really look back, and every time I've chosen to do something that's like the first time, doing that Dr. Oz segment was, scary, exciting, right? Mm-hmm. To simulate menstrual blood on national television.
Yeah.
Being the first female biohacker to speak at South by Southwest, like these things are where I push myself to be courageous, because it is very vulnerable as a female to go out and try to advocate for this in an environment that I know is not inclusive of it. So just know that all throughout my career, even after I made that first decision to make that commitment to myself and to womankind, that I have had to, be in that, be continuously keep choosing to be that, to honor, I guess, that renegade spirit, if you will,
yes.
In so many moments, because it's not just one moment that changes your life, but it's every moment that you keep making different choices that ends up becoming your life.
Something I say all the time is one of my favorite phrases that I speak about often is just to choose courage. And it sounds like in every moment, right? And I love that you're saying this, because maybe women or people listening are like, well, this woman's a badass and she's probably always confident and she probably never feels, insecure or afraid. And I, love hearing that that's just not true. To remind us all that no matter where you're at in life, we all have insecurities, we all have doubts, we all have fears, and it's just, what do we do in those times? And I'm so grateful that you decided in that doctor's office to be so courageous and to tell that doctor, thank you, but no thank you. Yeah. I choose differently from my life, and now have created this whole thing that, obviously getting emotional because it has impacted my life so much. And I know I'm one of probably millions around the world of women that you've helped. And not just women, but then the relationships they have with themselves, their ability to have children, because of your work, because of your courage, like the impact that, one person, you, has made, because you could have chosen in that doctor's office to say, oh crap, I believe you, this sucks, my life's over. You could have chosen that. And I'm sure, rightfully so, because you're hearing it from a doctor that you trust. And I think it's so empowering for so many of the people that might be in doctor's office right now getting things from doctors or from parents or from whoever that they admire or trust or look up to, saying, this is how your life's going to be. And it's up to us individually to say, thank you, but no thank you. Yeah. I choose differently. And the outcomes that can come from that. So just thank you for being you.
That's really heartfelt and appreciated. Thank you. I always say to our clients, to our community, that it's that feedback that I have with my community, where, I'm like so proud of all the Flo babies and moms that we've helped, be part of that journey. And women it's just every day if I get a message from someone like, I had my first pain-free month, in my life, or, my ovarian cyst is gone, I don't need surgery now, or my endo is totally manageable without pain medication. It's like, and then I always say, I'm so glad. And now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Because being healthy is not the destination. It's the foundation. It's the platform. It's the springboard. And I'm interested in helping women feel good so they can unleash their unique creative genius onto the world. Whatever it is here that you might be here to do, to help. The world certainly seems to need it. And so, if I can just help take away some of the struggle that holds you back from feeling like you have all your energy to do whatever it is you love doing, that's, it's a privilege.
So cool. Well, you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I know we left people on a cliffhanger, so I want to get back to that, but you want to say something?
No, I just said, I'm just, as always, as we talk about on future past shows about, I just get excited to continually participate in this journey, but to have that I love how you said that platform, that foundation, like that is start there. And then so women, especially in this century, can unleash all the beautiful things. I think the feminine will really heal a lot of the things that are going on in this world. And if we don't have...
I just want to say my daughter peeked her head in the door and she goes, "You're so interesting." She's 6.
Oh, wow. She's absorbing.
Yeah. Look at mom just talking
How
to
beautiful.
screens. This is so cool.
It's I never ever thought that, the pandemic, she's just been around me recording so many podcasts. And so about 6 months ago, she started with this, "You're so interesting, Mom," conversation. Well, I guess that's good.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
So great.
Go, Lisa.
So great. So getting back to just the question of what can men do to support women, obviously, other than giving them your books, giving them your website, is there something that if a woman out there in your life is suffering, what can men do to help support?
Okay. The first thing you want to do is you want to tell a woman that you want to help her normalize a conversation that she should not be victimized by her hormones. Just as you're imagine yourself having a passionate, informative conversation with a friend that you're telling them about your intermittent fasting journey with. Mm-hmm. You're like, "Dude," another guy, you're like, "Bruh, I did this thing. Look at what's happening to my body. You should try this. Here's the research," right? You're capable of having that informative, excited conversation. If you heard this information, you should immediately go to any female you are connected to and be like, "My person, sister, friend, I just learned all this stuff about your hormones, and any symptom you're having is a form of biofeedback that's indicating that your body is crying out for some sort of different support. Here's a website where you can get a ton of information, and you shouldn't tolerate those symptoms because they're bad for you now and they're worse for you later, and no one's talking about that." So you can just passionately, excitedly inform and direct to the FloLiving resource. And then if you are in a relationship with someone, a female, romantic relationship, you can be like, "Hey babe, can you please download the My Flow app and put me into your partner sync feature so that I can get notified which phase you're in, and it will tell me what dates to plan for you and what how much foreplay we need in a particular phase." And I really want to participate in biohacking our relationship with, including your hormones and mine. And if you had those two conversations, you would dramatically, profoundly change your world. And if every man did that, the world.
Yes.
Amen to that.
Amen. It's so true.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because I was recently on a few months ago on a men's retreat in Tucson, Arizona with my men's group, and literally some of the men coming by, and I choose to surround myself with other conscious, grounded, heart-centered men to continue to hold space for beautiful women like yourselves, and to be able to co-create a beautiful world together. And some of the men going on here, and I'm like, "Yep, these are the type of men I'm with." At the time, this is before me learning more about you. They were listening to Alison Strong's, Understanding Women, Alison Armstrong's Understanding Women, and there's a men's side to that. And it's just I love surrounding myself with men that do really care about understanding women and knowing the differences and seeking to understand. And so now, of course, maybe on the next retreat, we'll have to put, absolutely share that information. And then on the way to the retreat, be listening to the, in the flow.
I love it.
Yes.
Science is a bridge we can all confidently walk over to a new understanding of ourselves and each other, as opposed to opinions.
Yes, as opposed to science. Well, in this show, our mission with the show is to inspire hope, right? That some people either give up on love or give up on even their health, give up on the ability that maybe I'm just not one of the lucky ones out there. We just think that's a bunch of bullshit. And we just want to, hopefully that this inspires hope that no matter what you've been through in your past, just like your story, you got told it was hopeless and you were like, "Nope, no thank you. I believe that there's hope and I'm going to go find it," to empower others that they can do that same thing, and that there are people out there like you that can really help support them on their journey. And so we just, we hope that this this show inspires hope that it's not hopeless, and that we can figure stuff out. We just have to like choose differently. And getting into that, you know, we have a segment called Favorite Finds on this show, Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. Favorite finds meaning any sort of poem, book, TV show, movie, any art piece that you have recently or in the past come across that had a really profound experience in your life that you want to share.
I love the poetry of Naraya Waheed. She really speaks to the female experience. I quote her a couple of times in chapter intros in the book, in the flow.
Can you say her name again, Alisa?
Naraya. I may be pronouncing it in a botched manner.
Oh, it's okay.
Nawrayah, and then I think Waheed is Waheed.
Okay.
Naraya Waheed.
And then there was an arch installation at the Guggenheim that was just like an extraordinary experience. This female painter from 100-something years ago painted these specific works. I wrote about it in chapter 10 of In the Flow because it was so moving and extraordinary. And she, before she died, she instructed her only relative, which was a male nephew, I think, to ensure that her work was not seen for at least 100 years until people's consciousness and understanding was where she thought it would be needed to see the work.
Wow.
And what's even more spectacular about this story is that she designed the exhibit. She wanted it to be displayed in a upward spiralic display, which if you've been to the Guggenheim, it is an upward spiral ramp. And the work starts with her depiction of, I'll call it molecular creation, sound vibration. And she somehow was tuning in such a long time ago to like quantum physics and molecular biology, and sort of how the interaction of these two things is sort of the spark of life. And then it ends, you spiral up and then it ends with sort of a depiction of like the universe. I mean, it was
wow,
remarkable.
Wow.
Okay, so we need to look up that poetry as well as that art exhibit, because that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, how incredible is that? Yeah, I feel like in all walks of life, we're just, was it Einstein or even Tesla, like when they get these downloads and they're like, can tap into the unified field, right? And
she was tapping into some real extraordinary.
Yeah.
And then to hold it, I haven't heard of someone that actually, held something for so long, knowing that. Have you? Do you know?
No, I've never. That's really profound. Really, really, really profound.
Her name, by the way, I don't think I mentioned, is Hilma F. Clint.
Hilma F. Clint.
Wow. She was Dutch. So AF, Hilma F. Clint. And her work is not on display anywhere that I'm aware now, but you can, I think, search for some of the images online from that exhibit. It was so special to be there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show. And again, I already cried my tears of gratitude for you.
Thank you guys for having me. It was such a fun conversation. I mean, we didn't even get to talk about sex too much, but another time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But read the book. It's in chapter, I think 8, 9, somewhere.
Well, again, and obviously the show is so much about the relationship to self, the relationship to others, and the relationship to the world around us. And a through line throughout every interview we've ever done is that it always has, if we want to blame other people for our issues or relationship issues, it always actually comes back to the man or the woman in the mirror. And just want to empower everybody that if you're a female or a male and struggle with hormonal issues, weight issues, emotional, mental health issues, that there are really powerful, profound answers out there if you look for them, if you research them, if you something we regularly say.
And it doesn't even have to be that hard anymore because, that's why I built the site, so that you don't have to go and reinvent the wheel and do all the research and spend your time. We deserve to have that upgrade in our healthcare. If you've got an issue, you should be able to just, get your solution quickly, because your time is precious. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm so grateful that you guys had me on today. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so
and then
much.
for one last time, I know we've shared it across throughout the show, but what are some best places to find you? I know we've mentioned it, but if you could say that all again, that would be wonderful.
You can find resources for your hormonal issues at FloLiving.com. You can find us on social media at Instagram at FloLiving or at Alisa.Vitti. You can find the app at myflowtracker.com, and it has the circle icon, not the feather. You can get the books on anywhere books are sold online. You can join the Cycle Syncing membership at cyclesyncingmembership.com.
Yes.
I think that's all the resources we have.
Yeah, and definitely use the code Renegade because you'll get a whole free month. And that free month obviously could literally, the education that people learn, change your entire life. So
and
just really, if you're a male listening, please send that out to all your female friends. And just be like, don't ask questions. This is what you're doing this month. And also for women, if you're hearing this, please share this with all your female friends out there and even their male partners, because this work is just necessary in the world, and it's up to us to share it. And he literally shared an episode with me that you were on. It changed my life, and now I want to go. I've shared it with probably hundreds of thousands of people already. And so and the impact and the ripple effect that creates. So share.
And we talked about when the new year kind of hit, right, that resolutions are, and of course this is just kind of like a tagline, but it's like resolutions are useless, realizations are priceless. And the realizations that we talked about on the show, what you talk about in your books, are really profound and life-changing. So
and
once again,
priceless.
And very priceless. We want to create on this show, and really our life's mission is to co-create a world where healthy relationships are the new norm. And when we have that as a foundation, like you talked about, then what are the possibilities? What is the human potential for ourselves, others, and the world around us? So thank you for co-creating with us today.
Yes, thank you.
And we honor, respect, and I always, as I continue to learn, just have, like I said in the beginning of the show, I can't say it enough, much more gratitude, much more respect, much more honor for you women that perform at a high level and go through this every single month. But gratefully, there is these methods and everything that you can be in the flow, because we talk about that all the time. Like, we should be more like nature, going with the flow and not stopping anything. And so, just thank you for sharing all your wisdom, your passion, and your love for this. And just thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right.
Awesome, guys. Stay tuned for the next episode. You've been listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. We will see you next time.
Love you guys.